Back tonight, here on In Focus, the horrific attack on a crew filming a music video in Krugersdorp, west of Johannesburg, on Thursday, has prompted widespread condemnation. Meanwhile, the attack and subsequent rape of 8 young women by suspected illegal miners, or zamas, has spurred the Democratic Alliance to launch a petition in the hope it will assist in efforts to dislodge illegal miners. Joining us now to give us a glimpse into the scale of the problem of foreign-armed illegal miners on South African soil is Benchmark's lead researcher, David van Wyk. David, good evening. Good to have you on In Focus. Is there a fundamental difference between what we are calling in this bulletin illegal mining and artisanal small-scale mining?
Well, I think, yes, there should be a difference, and the difference comes from the fact that you have illegal mining taking place on licensed mines that belong to mine owners that have got mining licenses, where ghost miners go down underground and they operate alongside the formal mine workers that are employed by the mine and its subcontractors. The small-scale miners are people who are mining the 6,000 abandoned mines in this country, which are illegally abandoned and ownerless and derelict. Every mine, by law, should have proper fencing, security, and signposting. And where these unfortunate rapes took place involving these young ladies, that particular site should have been fenced off and signposted and secured, and not they or the people who attacked them should have had access to that particular site. You see, the problem in this country is that the government has not enforced the laws with regard to mine closure and rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And that is what leads to the situation that we have on the Rand, with all these abandoned mines everywhere where there is absolute chaos. You know, I was with a British journalist about 2-3 years ago, and we walked into guys breaking up a Golf that they had hijacked, unfortunately. And if you go to the communities on the western or on the northern rim of Soweto, they will tell you horror stories of what happens among the mine dumps in that particular area, because at the moment, the thing is not regulated, the thing is not controlled, the thing is not legislated for, so it's a free-for-all.
There are some NGOs, David, who suggest to the South African Department of Mineral Resources and Energy that the incorporating or integrating of artisanal or small-scale miners into the formal sector can certainly help with these issues of security and increasing security and creating a path for some stable incomes. Do you share that same view?
Well, yes, we have been working with the DMRE in a consultation process on a white paper for more than 3 or 4 years now. We would like there to be an audit of all small-scale mining in this country. We work with the National Association of Small-Scale Miners. And apart from that audit, and we know that there are 34,000 small-scale zamas all along Main Reef Road in Johannesburg that are operating there. Often when mines are abandoned and they become derelict and ownerless, the workers are also abandoned. And many of them can't make their way home because they don't even get their packages when suddenly the mine shuts down and they can't get to go home. And so they get stranded in the Rand. We also have to remember the history of South Africa. People from Lesotho, the Eastern Cape, Swaziland, Mozambique, and so on, came to South Africa for generations since 1886. Generation after generation got eaten up by our mines, literally speaking. And, you know, we are still sitting with the difficulty of giving money back to 500,000 people who won or who settled out of court for the damage to their lungs by the formal mining industry, who now, the fund managers now claim that they can't find the people who are supposed to be the beneficiaries of that fund because they make it impossible to get to those people. And we find many of those people are stranded here in Gauteng, and the only way that they know how to survive is actually to scratch around on these mines. But if they are uncontrolled, syndicates move in, and we can show you photographs and so on of the syndicates coming to collect the gold from them and threatening them with guns and so on if they don't sell to the syndicates. And very often the syndicates also take guns and they protect certain pieces of land, and they make the zamas pay rent. And if other zamas move onto their land, then clashes occur and people get killed. And this is not the first time that people have gotten killed. About 2 years ago, some zamas were lined up next to a railway line, about 11, 12 of them, and shot in the head, all in a row.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, it's like drugs in South Africa. The people who benefit from the drugs live in Sandton and the leafy suburbs of Cape Town. Yeah. They don't live in the townships. But they exploit the people in the townships with those drugs. The same thing with zamas. The people who benefit from the illegal gold that comes into the system, goes into the formal system or goes out of the country illegally, are actually people who are very wealthy and very powerful. Yeah. They are security companies. They are sometimes foreign gangs. They are sometimes local gangs and so on. But they are not these ragtag people that the police are arresting at the moment amongst the mine dumps.
So you're saying these gang-like groupings that have armed themselves to the T, who even fight back. Yes. I believe there was a little bit of a shootout with the police while they were trying to enforce some arrests. Are not your small-scale real farmers, but they've formulated themselves into some kind of gangsters.
Well, yes, I think that unless we actually go ahead and make an audit of all the zama operations and force those operations to have licenses and create a central buying agency where all their gold is sold, instead of those gold of that gold flowing out of the country illegally or illegally into the formal system, go to a central buying agency. And I can tell you, scrap metal dealers are heavily involved in this. Wherever you find zamas operating, you find scrap metal dealers. And you also find copper theft and cable theft and everything else, because it's a free-for-all that's uncontrolled. And people who say that, oh no, just arrest these guys, it won't help. You're going to arrest until you are blue in the face. People have been arresting zamas for years now. The only way to do it is to actually regulate it and control it. In other words, assess the problem, make an audit of the problem, then design a program around which you can actually formalize the operations of these guys. And those guys that are operating illegally in formal mines, those ones you arrest.
Now, but you see the thing. What do you do then? Sorry, David. Let me come in. What do you do? I understand in terms of policy and regulations that there is and you correct me here, a requirement on the part of the mines themselves to actually put money aside for the rehabilitation of the mines. Is that correct?
Well, I think that it is a little bit far-fetched to say that the mines themselves should finance the illegal operations on their property where it's a legal mine that has got a license. I think that is unacceptable. But I think that where a mine has been abandoned, we should actually make a transition because, mining is not sustainable because minerals are finite. And a lot of these mines are no longer industrially viable. They're no longer profitable for big companies to operate. Therefore, we should allow for a transition to medium and smaller scale mining in this country to allow for the mines to continue operating and people to generate an income to feed their families and so on. But that can only happen if you formalize the situation.
And then how do we make the penalties a little bit more stringent, more stronger against those mining companies that do not rehabilitate mines that have been abandoned?
Well, the law is there. If you look at the MPRDA, I think it's section 43 through to 46 or 47, speaks extensively of what mining companies should do. They should have a mine closure fund to which they contribute regularly. That mine closure fund should be made operational when the mine goes into closure. But you see, what we are discussing with the DMRE is concurrent and post-mining economics at the moment. And concurrent and post-mining economics means, what do we do with these abandoned mines where there are facilities that can be useful to communities? For example, workshops, places that they could use for various economic activities, SMMEs, and so on. Also, these mines all have electricity substations, and you can actually run solar farms on these mines that can generate electricity back into the system. And those solar farms can be owned by the community on mine wasteland that you can't use for anything else. You know, there are so many things that can be done that we are discussing with the University of Cape Town and we're discussing with the DMRE. But, you know, the thing is that we in South Africa talk a lot, but we don't do what is needed to be done. And we are going to end up like the Democratic Republic of the Congo if we are not careful.
Yeah. So you have already mentioned the audit that would need to be done on artisanal miners. Given the nature of illegal or artisanal mining in South Africa, what else would government need in order to prop up its enforcement agencies?
Well, I think that we should run workshops to formalize them into proper economic units, cooperatives or business units. And then we should buy all the gold that they are producing, and then we should fund safety officers, we should fund geologists, and we should fund engineers and so on to help them make their workplaces safe, and also to help us to secure those workplaces against the kind of violence that we are observing at the moment. Yeah. You know, on the Rand, there is a group called the Amarasha. They operate around Durban Roodepoort Deep, and they are a particularly violent gang that tries to expand their control over other zamas that are more peaceful and less conflictual. Now, the police are in the Randfontein area have tried to gain control over that, but it seems as if you look at Durban Roodepoort Deep, where the old Durban Roodepoort Deep village used to be, that seems to be like an independent country almost. Those people have complete control over that area, and it doesn't seem as if the police are able to or even willing to deal with that particular group.
So are there formal channels, David, that you're aware of for the dispatching of or sale of the beneficiation of the products that come from artisanal miners?
Well, at the moment there isn't, and that is the problem. The only way to exclude the syndicates from the cycle, from the value chain, is to actually say, to create government agents that buy all the gold from the zamas to a central buying agency. And that central buying agency can then take a percentage of the profits to employ the necessary means to make the operation safe and secure. But you know, that requires some effort. At the moment, in our country, we really have a problem in mining because we also export raw concentrate, which is just rocks going to the harbor in Cape Town. So we end up with a situation where Switzerland receives more platinum than what leaves South Africa, for example, right? So the criminality in mining in South Africa starts right at the smallest scale and goes right up to the top. I'm sorry to say that. And it needs to be dealt with. You know, the United Nations Trade and Industry Group did research some time ago about the amount of money that countries in Africa are losing because of the illegal flow of minerals through the formal system, let alone the informal system. Yeah. And, you know, until we formalize things and take control of our ports and harbors and so on, we won't control the situation. If you go to Sekhukhune, where there's chrome, there you have people operating with huge trucks and graders mining illegally and taking the stuff across the Mozambican border. It's not like the people in Gauteng who are ragtag people who have been left behind and forgotten, you know, and who find themselves destitute, who go into the mines. In Sekhukhune land, it is people conducting almost industrial operations illegally.
David, appreciate your time, and let's leave it there for tonight. And thank you very much for bringing us that information there. That is David van Wyk. He is
Thank you so much.
With the Benchmark Foundation.